the way I usually set is very flow related and somewhat to a degree predictable.
Yeah.
While with this specific set with all these climbs for these 9 that I just finished, the overall goal was to make more committed, a little more bouldery style, less feet, and just trying to really force higher commitment on harder grips, you know. Showing people that if you just commit through it, you'll be fine.
So after you get this one, and you go left hand, high foot, left hand again.
Yeah.
And you go right, get a high foot, and then bump. That's so cool. I'll try to link it from the bottom. It's so shallow, you're gonna dry fire if you're like all the time on it. Oh. Dry fire so bad. I think I'm grabbing that one wrong too.
That was sick.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like yellow, for example, it's bigger grips, harder movement, but if you can just kind of work your way through the harder sections and just commit to where it gets a little bit easier, you're kind of okay, which is nice. The overall goal was to make this climb very eye appealing, which I think kind of was accomplished very well. And a lot of crossovers on bigger pinches, and very few feet, and the feet that you do have are usually very high. So I think it was very unique because of that. And I also just love these circle HRT grips. I would say this climb to a degree is very steady. You can almost break it into 3 different sections. You have these 4 big cylindrical HRT grips, which are a little weird to orient it because the grips are kind of all over the place, and that is more like body positioning. Then halfway through, it's more about just kind of committing, and then towards the end, you just kind of have harder crossovers that is challenging because you're kind of pumped out at that point because all the other moves are bigger reaches, honestly similar to if you're trying to climb something very light on like a kilter board or moon board, just not as small. You can't forget that on this wall though, it looks flat, but there is a small little bump out on 2 different sections, which does get you pretty hard. Even though you don't see it, it does hit you pretty well.
It wasn't that bad.
Bumped?
I just had to like stay with it. It wasn't that bad. It was like fresh as much.
moves where you're holding onto 2 grips, and your next one, you kind of have to commit and do a hard crossover to something a little bit better. So it's trying to force bigger moves like that. And the grips that you do those crossovers to are all pretty good. You just have to commit to move through it. There are, on this climb specifically, some of these rounded grips on where there is a small bump out. And the challenging part about those is, if you're climbing this difficulty of 512A, you should be confident on them, but it's just, are you confident making something powerful to get to the next grip? Like, you're holding onto it, you've crossed over. If you hold on to it for too long, you are going to slip, so you just gotta commit to the next move, which isn't good, but you just gotta grab it, hold on to your feet, and continue through. I like these climbs a lot because it's not my usual style, so it was a ton of fun to kind of just play around with it a bit. And it's been also very interesting to not put a lot of foothold on it. I did it on purpose just to see how people would move, and you are kind of forced to lift your feet high, creating just kind of different forceful movement, which is nice. It's much harder to break the beta, which is kind of nice to see, because I'm forcing that specific style rather than someone doing something kind of completely different. Certain gyms, 513s are very obtainable, but here it is definitely not, and it's definitely above my grade. So trying to create movement that is something that I know is possible, and I know the movement is not unfathomable to a climber, but it's just that to some other folks, the technique or the strength, they don't have to make those specific moves. And so the goal with this was to try and make something that is too hard for me, that I could technically one-day project or is kind of out of reach, but I know can be worked together by someone that is trying to approach these difficulties. So to try and see if I can create something that challenges them, but also using my root-setting knowledge for many, many years to be able to still make something that just isn't completely impossible. And from what we've seen today, it is possible.
Drive first so bad. I think I'm driving that one wrong too.
That was sick.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That was really sick actually.
Hello. What's up?
I'm gonna go try that.